the theme of the article about being your stress is transferable to the students. So what I'm hearing is a teacher who might not be ready to receive feedback from an admin. To me, they need to take the day off.
Hey there, welcome back to Pod and Deliver. This week we are looking at an article entitled Teachers' Stress Trickles Down to Students. Here's what schools are doing about it. This is through Education Week, October 16th, 2023. Ruben, this article really took me back a little bit because it's dealing with stress, mental health. We just had Edward Portillo on our show, and just, he's a guy who definitely is concerned about mental health, and we've been on his podcast regarding that. And it's still going on because our kids feel it. When we're stressed out, Ruben, our kids definitely feel it. And this article dealt with a couple of, one thing for sure, it dealt with Arizona Science Teachers Association called ASTA, and how Arizona is really wanting to help their teachers. Also, the article brings out a little survey done by Ed Weekly, right? I guess it came out last January, talking about what are some things that our teachers are stressed about. And a number of things came out, Ruben. One of the major things that came out is that teachers are underpaid. Of course, we've heard talk about that before. But a big thing also is the meetings that teachers have to go to and dealing with all the paperwork and out of classroom work that teachers do. And I'll tell you the truth, Ruben, I have definitely deal with that regarding paperwork and meetings. A lot of times, Ruben, we have 2 meetings after school in a row. So like 2 hours after you're done a whole day, you're exhausted. And you know what? You would hope that your administration team, and a lot of times it's not their fault, to be fair to them. They're getting dictation, they're getting information from their higher ups at the district. But it's tough on us. It's tough on teachers having to be there all day and having to sit through those meetings. And then you really feel about what the kids have to go through regarding sitting there. So, you just want to go home. And so, Ruben, I really like this article. I do want to share another thing is that, administrators obviously have a big piece of this regarding how they treat their staff. And I think that, to help teachers, there has to be a better communication. And I don't see that always. That's just talking to different teachers at different schools. It just seems like that's a big source of stress. But anyway, Ruben, how do you feel about the article?
Well, just to your point about administrators, I think the best administrators I have are very careful with their language. And one of their goals is to keep us motivated, keep the spirits high and the morale high. So the avoiding certain words is important. And I agree with you that the role of administrator that's a very important part of the role. But before I give you some of the bullet points that's in the article that stood out to me, that are stress factors, I do want to mention a quick story that I probably told on this podcast, but it bears repeating. And that is, I think you play a role in your own stress. So I'm gonna convey a story to give by way of example. I remember dealing with a breakup, okay, in my personal life. And I would go to class and just be myself. I'm sad. I'm depressed over this personal issue. And one of my students read it and they approached me and they said, "Mr. Aguilar, I really see that you're going through something right now, aren't you?" And I was impressed by this student. And I told him, "Yes, you could tell, huh?" He goes, "Yeah, I could tell." And this is what he said. "Don't bring that shit up here." When he said, "Don't bring that shit up in here. We don't need to see that." And I took it to heart, and I followed his advice, and it really has borne good things in my career because he was right. And so I've really I've noticed that I've been able to separate as best as I can. And I mean, I was dealing with, my dad getting sick, right? And dealing with all that stress. And I really feel like I managed that pretty well in the class. I mean, this is many years later. So that being said, so you could really just try to discipline and be careful about that, because students have to manage their own stress levels. You don't want to give them added stress. Some of the bullet points that would decrease the stress levels, they included a pay raise. I'm all for that. More money, that'll help the stress factor for sure. Because you know what? Not so much in my career now, in the last few years, but early on, there was some financial issues. When you're a new teacher, you're barely making it sometimes. Better support for student discipline, that is huge. When you feel supported, when there are protocols in place, you have your own classroom protocols and discipline measures, right? But failing that, what's going to happen then? Is there support in school-wide for when a student is really acting out? Of course, we encourage teachers to handle it in class. Don't send your problem to somebody else. 9 times out of 10, there's things you can do. But get support, of course, from admins. That's important. Small class size. Jake, we talked about it in a movie recently, Blackboard Jungle, that big class sizes can really add to discipline problems. If you are talking to the class in mass and you've got 2 or 3 students who are on their phones, you got that guy over there, you might have to decrease your class size yourself if the admin didn't do it. You might have to put the classes in groups. I must sound like a broken, I don't want to say record because the kids don't know what that is. So, but it's true. Smaller class size, even if you make it a smaller class size. Fewer burdens related to meetings. Thank you. Decrease the meetings. They're a waste of time, not always. And finally, less time for lunch duty. Jake, do you go on lunch duty?
No, but I'm sure there's schools that have that response. Elementary school teachers maybe have that responsibility. But I know I haven't done that, and I don't think I've ever done that actually. No, you're right. But some schools, like I said, this article is speaking to other programs, other states, and so forth. Although this is an Ed Weekly, no, it was dealing with different schools, I think, throughout the country. But yeah, you're right, though, Ruben. We don't have to deal with it.
So I would just follow through on a couple of those things. Really try to manage your own stress level. Really, if you have discipline problems, I can't think of a bigger stressor than discipline problems in class. And I would really, if you want to hire me, I'll consult you. Just kidding. But anyway.
But I think you're right. I think you're right regarding you, because the kids do feed off you. They know when something's off, when you're off, and they don't need to know. However, it's difficult for some people because the stress level was so high. The article talks about how so many teachers, and we've talked about this several times, about teachers leaving the profession because they're just, for a lot of reasons, a lot of the same reasons that we're talking about here regarding finances and stress level. But I think that realistically, it is difficult, Ruben. To hold it all in. I think what's wrong with seeing therapy. I don't think this is talked about enough. Is teachers sometimes have to talk to somebody and they kind of refer to it a little bit in the article, because that's a big need. And if you do need to, and I want to encourage teachers right now that if you feel like you need to talk to somebody, because this is your job, this is your work, your kids are important. You need to be there for them, like you mentioned, Ruben. Hey, just get to work. Don't be involved in your, if you're not feeling right, the kids don't need to know all your details, right?
Right. I agree.
Well,
Talk to somebody and consult with other teachers, get ideas. You get the best ideas when you talk. Sometimes talking to each other about particular students. I'll have a teacher say to me, or I'll tell a teacher, oh, that kid, their kryptonite is their parent. Just call their parent and you'll see it change. Or just take their phone right when they come to class and no issues. And so you can share intel with other teachers, and that will be a good support. So, all right.
Yeah. And then just going back before we close, talking about the admin. I mean, when I got my admin credential, the whole thinking was being a servant leader, and I think I'm not an admin. I'm a teacher, but I think that is a good way of going. How do you help your teachers? If you see a teacher, because I know recently I had a friend who was stressed out of his mind. He had to get some medical procedures, and he came to work, and guess that the administrator decided to go visit his classroom on the day after he had all this medical procedures. He had a couple of them, and the teacher was really still getting, mentally straight. And if you know your teachers are going through a lot, something's happening, give them a little day or two to get straight back before you go and observe them and do things like that. I just
Well,
think that,
I don't know about that one.
why
Can
don't you know?
I challenge that in one way? If you can't, this might be a difference of opinion here. If you cannot handle an observation from a principal or an admin, you probably shouldn't be at work. You should probably take the day off. In my opinion, again, this is my opinion. I try to treat my classroom as no holds barred. I'm expecting the admin every second of the day, every second I can justify. There are times when I'll riff to my students, but still, there's a justification for that. We might have a discussion about something that's impromptu, but everything. That's how I feel. Like,
I don't think we disagree. Actually, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, on your end, of course, but on their, what I'm saying is on their end, if you see, it has nothing to do with you. It's them. If they see, if I'm an administrator, servant leader, I'm hoping to build up my team, my teachers. And if someone's looking like they're having a tough time, I'm not going to go strong in on them. I'm not going to go in and give them a tough time. That's all I'm saying. Yes,
I,
you're right, Ruben. You should be ready for that all the time. But I'm just speaking to being a leader, and leader. I mean, it's tough being a leader, but that's just my opinion,
well,
and I'm hoping
only
people will
from the
listen.
theme of the article, though. The theme of the article about being your stress is transferable to the students. So what I'm hearing is a teacher who might not be ready to receive feedback from an admin. To me, they need to take the day off. I don't see how you could disagree with that. Just take the
I
day off.
don't. I'm not saying that, Ruben. Again, I don't think you're listening to me. Of course, that's true. I'm saying I'm looking at the other end. I'm looking as if you're an administrator and you're coming in.
I know.
I
We
would no. I
we
look
just
to look.
disagree. We just disagree.
I'm saying I look to how do I build up my staff? How do I encourage them? If I have a staff whose father somebody who just died, I just don't
Right.
say, well, hey, you know what? Take the day off.
It's
Maybe they took 3 or 4
no,
days
no. We
off
agree on
already.
that. We agree on
You know
that.
what I'm saying?
I'm trying to be consistent
Yeah.
from the beginning of our podcast. And again, I said I preface this in the beginning, though we might disagree, and that's okay. Is that admins can go in at any time and at any time to give feedback, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, there's a caveat there. There might be an admin who's a complete jackass. I'm not going to support that. And that he doesn't know how to give feed, or she doesn't know how to give feedback. That's different. Then, of course, then we agree.
Yeah.
That's a foolish administrator. But that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, and the truth is that, like you mentioned, our students are the ones who feel it, but our students, they do feel it. And I think it's our job to be there for them, to be our best, and whatever it takes. There is something about taking a mental health day, right? So, with all that, Ruben, I think it's time to say goodbye. And
All
thank
right.
you for coming. Another episode on Pod and Deliver. We hope to see you soon. Have a good night. Bye bye.